The quieter you become, the more they start to hear what they've lost. There's always a moment, a very specific moment, not loud, not dramatic, just final, and it never happens when you expect it, not during the argument, not during the tears, not when they ghosted you or stopped replying to your messages. No, the moment they truly fear losing you forever, my friends, is when your energy no longer chases, no longer reacts, no longer revolves around them. When you simply let go, not with fire, but with stillness, not with revenge, but with rebirth. If you've ever found yourself questioning whether walking away silently has power, this is for you. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you won't just understand the moment they fear losing you forever, you'll feel it in your bones. And if you've ever been the one left behind, what you're about to hear will flip that entire story on its head. So hit that like button if you're ready to reclaim your power, and subscribe to make sure you never forget who you are becoming. Now, hey folks, picture this. You were once like a fireplace in the cold, burning, warm, always there when they needed it. They didn't always tend to the fire. Sometimes they'd walk away, close the door behind them, assuming the fire would still be burning when they returned. But one day, they come back, and it's out. No warning, no smoke, just cold silence. That's the moment. That's when panic sets in. Not because they love you so deeply, let's break that illusion, but because they lost control over the warmth they used to take for granted. You see, most people don't fear losing you until they lose the version of you that needed them. Let me say that again for the folks in the back. They don't miss you. They miss the access, the admiration, the emotional safety net you provided. But the moment they sense you've evolved past needing their validation, their attention, their apologies, that's the moment they get hit with reality. We've been fed lies, haven't we? That if you stay available, keep the door open, remain nice and understanding, they'll come back, realize your worth, and apologize. But here's the truth. They don't fear what they still believe they control. They fear what they can no longer influence. They fear silence. They fear indifference. They fear the absence of your emotional dependency. That's the storm they didn't see coming. And this isn't about playing games or pretending to move on. This is about a deep transformation, Stoic detachment, inner mastery. Like the great Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. When you finally stop trying to change their mind, when you stop waiting for the closure that will never come, when you stop hoping they'll see your worth, you shift into power. Not loud power, still power. Think about this, my friends. A tree doesn't make noise when it grows, but that doesn't mean it isn't rising. The roots grow deeper, the trunk thickens, and before they even realize it, you're out of reach. That's the moment they feel it. That's when it's too late. This video is going to walk you through those exact moments, those subtle, powerful shifts, when they start to fear they've lost you forever. And by the end of it, you'll know exactly why your silence, your peace, and your growth have more weight than any message you could have ever sent. So stay with me, because this isn't just a video, it's a reflection of who you're becoming. Type it in the comments to remind yourself and declare it to the world. Peace over chasing. And if you're ready to keep stepping into that version of you, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed, because we're just getting started. Number 1. The day you go silent without announcement. When you stop speaking, they start listening. It doesn't come with a loud bang, no final message, no dramatic goodbye, no closure ceremony, just quiet. And not the kind of silence that begs to be chased or the kind that's fueled by resentment. This one is different. This is the silence of a person who has made peace with their pain, the silence that doesn't need to be understood, the silence that simply chooses freedom over validation. Imagine this, my friends. You were once a lighthouse, always shining, always guiding, always standing tall, even in the darkest storms. They used to look for your light, knowing it would always be there, waiting. But one day, the light goes off. Not because you wanted them to crash, but because you realized you were shining for someone who had already chosen to drift. You see, the moment you go silent, not out of anger, but out of calm detachment, is the exact moment they begin to fear something they never considered possible, that you're gone for real. Now, here's where it gets real. This isn't the kind of silence they expected. They thought you'd disappear for a few hours, maybe a day, maybe even a few days. But they thought you'd come back with a message, a check-in, a hint of your presence somewhere online, a breadcrumb of attention. But you didn't. And suddenly, the room feels colder. They begin to ask themselves, wait, are they really done? Did I push too far? Why aren't they reaching out? Because here's what they were banking on: the pattern, the emotional rhythm. You see, most people don't think in terms of consequences. They think in terms of reactions. And if you've always responded, explained, chased, or reacted, they grow confident in the pattern. They believe your silence is temporary because they still believe they control your response. But when you break that pattern, calmly, firmly, and without need for permission, that's when fear creeps in. Because now, they don't know what's next. That's the moment that flips the script. When your silence is no longer part of the game, but a gateway to your growth. When it's no longer about making them miss you, but finally giving yourself the space to stop missing them. This shift, it rattles them, because it wasn't announced, it wasn't emotional, and it certainly wasn't weak. It was a conscious decision to stop pouring into a space that only drained you. Let's be honest, walking away quietly is not easy. It feels unnatural at first. You want to explain yourself. You want to be understood. You want closure. But here's the hard truth. The people who created confusion in your life are rarely the ones who will give you clarity. And the longer you stay waiting for them to realize your worth, the longer you stay disconnected from your own. Like Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That quote isn't just Stoic wisdom, it's your new way of life. Because when you go silent without drama, without a post, without a warning, you shift from victim to master. Not of them, not of the situation, but of yourself. Now let's flip the lens. Imagine how that silence feels from their end. They go to check your profile. No sign of you. They post something expecting you to view it. Nothing. They wait for a message, a reaction, a wave of attention, but the line stays cold. That's when it hits. Not because they miss you like they claim to miss people, but because they finally notice the void where your presence used to be constant. And that void, that's not punishment, that's self-respect. So to you listening right now, if you've recently chosen silence, if you've stopped explaining yourself, if you've stepped back without warning, I want you to understand this. You didn't quit. You evolved. You broke the cycle. You stopped asking for closure from the very person who caused the open wound. And that, my friends, is rare. Let that be your reminder. Your silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's proof that you're no longer waiting for the apology, the explanation, or the validation. You've already given all of that to yourself. Now do this. Write it in the comments to anchor your mindset and remind others who are still stuck in the noise. Silence is my strength. Say it out loud. Show yourself. Show them. Show the world around you that peace is louder than any message ever could be. Stay with me, because what happens after this silence, that's when the game really changes. Number 2, when you respond with calm instead of emotion. Never let your enemies see what you feel. The moment they know they can shake you, they own you. This right here is where the shift begins. Not with silence, not with walking away, but with how you respond when they try to get inside your head. See, most people don't realize they're testing you until the results start coming in. A late reply, a strange comment, a small jab just to see if it still bothers you. They're not always doing it consciously, but trust me, they're checking your emotional pulse. Do you still react? Do you still care? Are you still hooked? Now imagine this. They throw shade. They act cold. They send a vague, cryptic message. Most people would jump, panic, overthink, maybe even confront it. But you respond with calm. Or better yet, you don't respond at all. And that, my friends, is when the entire dynamic flips. Because they expected chaos. They expected confusion. They expected the same emotional dance you used to do. But what they got was stillness, and that scares them more than any argument ever could. Think about it. We live in a world addicted to reactions. Social media thrives on outrage. Relationships are built on emotional triggers. The louder you scream, the more attention you get. But here's the problem. When you always respond with emotion, you hand over your power. You become predictable. They know how to push your buttons because they installed them. But a Stoic doesn't flinch. A Stoic man or woman doesn't react just because someone else feels like creating drama today. You don't take the bait anymore. Because once you realize that peace is your real currency, everything else becomes cheap noise. Let me give you a metaphor, folks. You ever see those giant boulders on a cliffside, just standing there through wind, storms, lightning, chaos? They don't move. They don't shout back. They don't crumble when the skies scream. That's what you've become, a damn mountain. While they're testing your nerves with pebbles, you're unmoved because you've risen above the battlefield. That's not detachment. That's mastery. But here's what makes it even more powerful. You used to respond. You used to care deeply. You used to explain, argue, beg for understanding. So now that you don't, it feels foreign to them, uncomfortable. They start to question, why are they not affected? Did they stop caring? Are they seeing someone else? Their mind starts spinning stories in the vacuum your calm created. Because calmness in the face of provocation is not apathy. It's a sign that you've leveled up. You've stopped dancing in circles with people who just want to spin you. You've stepped off the emotional roller coaster and walked away like you were never strapped in to begin with. Here's the lie we've been fed, that reacting shows you care. That silence means you've given up. That detachment is cold-hearted. No, no, no. Let's break that wide open right now. Reacting is easy. It's impulsive. It's what they expect. But responding with calm, with control, with measured stillness, that takes strength. That takes a deeper connection to yourself. That's what Stoicism teaches us. As Marcus Aurelius said, if you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your judgment about it, and it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now. That's it. The moment you stop reacting to what they do and start focusing on how you interpret it, you free yourself, not just from them, but from every little emotional landmine they try to plant in your path. Now let's flip it for a second. From their perspective, your calm is maddening. They throw their usual tricks, and nothing happens. It's like shouting into a canyon and hearing no echo. That's when panic sets in, because now they're dealing with someone they can't manipulate, can't bait, can't emotionally trap. And if they can't pull you down into the chaos, guess what? They have to sit in it alone. So, if you've been wondering, should I reply? Should I explain myself again? Should I let them know how I feel? Ask yourself this instead. Is my peace worth more than being understood by someone who clearly isn't trying to understand me? Because 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. Every single time. And if you've reached this level, my friend, where your calm unnerves them more than your anger ever did, then you're not just walking in your power, you're living in it. Say it with me in the comments. Calm is my comeback. Say it. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that your strength doesn't come from shouting louder, but from rising higher. Stay with me, because in the next moment we break down, the fear only gets deeper. Number 3, the day you stop explaining yourself. The need to explain is the disease of those still seeking permission to move on. There's a day, quiet, unannounced, but deeply final, when you wake up and realize something powerful. You no longer owe anyone an explanation, not for your silence, not for your distance, not for your peace, and definitely not for why you stopped showing up for someone who repeatedly misunderstood your worth. That day, my friends, isn't loud. It's liberating. It's the day you finally stop fighting for clarity from someone who benefits from keeping you confused. Most people aren't ready for that kind of shift, especially they, because as long as you're explaining yourself, they know they still have access to your mind. As long as you're trying to get them to understand your side, your pain, your logic, they know they still have influence. But when the explanations stop, when you stop chasing, but wait, here's what I meant, that's the day they start to feel what you felt for so long: disconnection, uncertainty, and emotional distance. Imagine this. You've always been the bridge, always the peacemaker, always the one willing to say, "Let me explain," when things went off track. But one day, you just don't have the energy to explain anymore. And not because you've given up, but because you've woken up. You've finally seen that the ones who truly care, they don't need long paragraphs. They don't need emotional dissertations. They feel your heart even in silence. And the ones who don't? No essay in the world will convince them to respect you the way you deserve. So you stop. You stop justifying why you pulled back. You stop trying to clarify your intentions. You stop trying to clear up misunderstandings that were never really misunderstandings, but subtle manipulations meant to keep you off balance. You realize that the people who want to twist your truth will always find a way to misinterpret your words, and you finally give yourself permission to walk away without the need to be understood. Now let's talk about what that feels like on their side. Because trust me, they notice. You were once the one who would write the long texts, the heartfelt messages, the breakdowns of what went wrong and how you wanted to fix it. And now, silence. Or maybe, just maybe, a few words delivered with calm finality. No emotion, no convincing, no chasing. Just a door closing slowly, and this time, for good. They expected you to explain. That was part of the pattern. They throw distance or confusion, you rush in with clarity. They mess up, you try to understand. But this time, you don't. You let them sit in the confusion they created. You let them feel the weight of their own silence. And suddenly, they realize they're the only ones still playing the game. Let me hit you with something hard. You don't need to keep defending the truth to someone who was never listening in the first place. You don't need to convince someone of your value when you know it yourself. Like Seneca said, no man can have a peaceful life who thinks too much about lengthening it, or believes that living through many consulships is a great blessing. Translation: stop overthinking your survival. Stop trying to make people stay longer than they were meant to. Peace doesn't come from being heard by everyone. It comes from being centered within. And look, I get it. Walking away without closure feels unnatural, especially if you're the kind of person who values understanding. But sometimes the highest form of self-respect is letting the door close without explanation. Because your energy is sacred, and if someone keeps creating confusion, they don't deserve more of it. You don't have to be bitter. You don't have to be cold. You just have to stop needing them to get it, because you get it. And that's enough. The moment you stop explaining yourself is the moment you reclaim all the power you were leaking into conversations that went nowhere. So if you've recently stopped explaining, stopped texting, stopped trying to make sense of what someone never truly valued, that isn't weakness. That's wisdom. That's you rising into the next version of yourself. The version that doesn't beg to be understood. It's the version that walks forward with clarity and calm, even when others stay stuck in their confusion. Write this one down in the comments to seal it in your spirit. I owe no explanations. Say it out loud. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that your peace is not up for debate. Stay with me, because next we're going even deeper. What happens when you pull back not just your voice, but your attention? That's when the fear really begins. Number 4, when your attention disappears, online and offline. The scariest kind of silence is when even your shadow stops following them. This is the one they never see coming. They expected you to go quiet for a while, maybe pull back for a few days, but they still thought you'd be watching, lurking in the digital shadows, checking their stories, liking an old post here and there, remaining close enough to be felt, even if not heard, because for a while your presence was like air, unseen but always there, comforting, predictable, quietly loyal. But then it happens. You vanish, not with a bang, not with drama, just gone. And not just from the conversations, but from their orbit, from their notifications, from their feed. Your name stops appearing under their posts. Your views disappear from their stories. That quiet little signal that you were still watching, still connected, even from afar, is suddenly missing, and for the first time, they feel the full weight of what they let go. Let me paint it for you, my friends. Imagine you're at a concert, loud, overwhelming, chaotic, but there's one person in the crowd whose eyes always find yours. You get used to it. It becomes a quiet anchor, even in all the noise. Then one day, mid-show, you look over, and they're not there. That invisible string snaps. That's what it feels like when your attention disappears. Subtle to the world, but profoundly personal to the one who's been depending on it. Because here's the truth they don't want to admit. Your attention, even in silence, was a source of comfort, a safety net, a quiet confirmation that they still had access to you, that even if things were broken, you still cared enough to keep one eye on them. But when your name stops showing up, when the last breadcrumb disappears, that's when reality sets in. They realize your energy is no longer orbiting them. And that silence, that absence, it's not just quiet, it's cold. We've all been there, right? Watching their feed, analyzing their stories, hoping to decode their emotions through a caption or a song lyric, wondering if they posted it for you, clicking, checking, subtly letting them know, I'm still here, just in case. But that game, it drains you. It keeps you tied to a past that's already let you go. And when you finally stop, Not to play hard to get, not to trigger a reaction, but because you genuinely don't need to watch anymore. That's when everything changes. They thought they had time, thought you'd always be watching, thought you'd always be there, at least digitally. But when the views stop, they start checking, refreshing, wondering. Where did they go? Did they block me? Are they seeing someone else? But you didn't block them. You didn't play games. You just withdrew, quietly, completely, and not for attention, but for peace. Like Marcus Aurelius said, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And my friends, when you stop investing your thoughts, time, and attention into someone who doesn't see the value in them, you create space for joy to return, not through revenge, not through silence as punishment, but through the radical act of reclaiming yourself. Let's call out the lie here. We've been told, out of sight, out of mind. But that's not how it works when you've left an emotional imprint, when you were consistent, present, and emotionally available, and then you suddenly stop. You don't fade. You echo. Every empty view, every missed like, every silent day becomes a louder message than words ever could. So if you're in that stage where you've stopped watching, stopped peeking, stopped leaving that digital trail behind, understand this. You're not disappearing. You're detaching. And detachment, when it's born from peace, is the most powerful transformation there is. Because your attention is a gift. And the moment you stop offering it freely to someone who took it for granted, you stop being replaceable. From their end, it feels like the lights went out. Like the only person who truly saw them stopped looking. And that's not something you can ignore. That's something you feel deep in your soul. Because it's not about the algorithm, it's about the absence of energy. And that haunts them. So if you're there right now, stepping back not just from conversation, but from observation, salute to you. You're not cold, you're wise. You're no longer feeding someone who never offered to feed you back. You've stopped watching the movie and walked out of the theater they thought you'd always be sitting in. Write this down in the comments to anchor your growth. I withdraw to protect my peace. Say it. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that your attention is no longer for sale. Stay with me, because what happens when you stop watching and start glowing? That moment hits even harder. Number 5. The moment you start to glow without them. The glow hits different when it wasn't fueled by revenge, but by rebirth. There's a moment, they won't admit it out loud, but it hits them hard. And it's not when you blocked them, not when you posted something vague, not even when you went quiet. It's when they realize you're glowing without them, and not just surviving, not just distracting yourself, but actually becoming better, rising, thriving, not as a show, not for attention, but because your soul finally got oxygen. See, most people expect you to crumble. That's the truth. They expect you to fall apart when they leave. They picture you spiraling, stuck in the same place where they left you, checking your phone, rereading old messages, playing sad songs on repeat, stuck in emotional quicksand. And at first, maybe you were. That initial silence hit deep. You questioned your worth, your choices, your identity. You looked in the mirror and saw someone dimmed. But then something shifted. You stopped waiting, you stopped watching, you stopped wasting your days wondering how they felt, and you started asking yourself what you needed. You started eating better, sleeping deeper, working harder, reading more, moving your body, healing your mind. And without posting quotes about healing, you began to heal. Without announcing a new era or preaching, "I'm over it," you got over it, quietly, calmly, completely. And that glow, It didn't come from proving anything to them. It came from no longer needing to. That's the part they never expect. Because when most people pull away, they assume they've broken something. But when you start glowing after the break, that's when they realize they didn't break you. They freed you. Let's put this in a metaphor, my friends. Imagine a garden. It's been overrun by weeds, neglected, trampled by someone who never really appreciated its beauty. But one day, the gardener returns, not with tears, but with tools. No announcement, no drama, just silent work. Day by day, the weeds are removed, the soil is nourished, the sun returns, and then, one morning, flowers bloom, not because someone watched, but because the work was done in silence. That's your glow. And make no mistake, they feel it, even if they don't say it. Maybe it's a mutual friend who mentions how focused you've been. Maybe it's a photo they stumble across and pause on for a little too long. Maybe it's just a shift in energy. The way you walk, the way you speak, the way your eyes no longer carry the weight of them. But they notice. They always notice. And what rattles them the most? You're not faking it. You're not smiling through pain to get a reaction. You're not using your glow as bait. You genuinely found joy without them in the picture. That's the kind of power you can't manufacture. That's the glow that can't be mimicked. Like Seneca once said, as is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters. And you, my friend, are finally writing a better tale. One where your happiness isn't dependent on who stays or who goes. One where your light doesn't flicker based on someone else's presence. Now think about what's happening in their mind. They scroll and see you smiling, not a forced smile, but that grounded, calm confidence. They see progress, discipline, focus, and what they feel isn't just regret, it's confusion. How did they move on? Why do they look better now? Were they always this powerful? And the truth is, yes, you were always this powerful. They just never gave you the space to realize it. But you did, without needing their approval, without needing their applause. And this glow, it's permanent. Because it wasn't built on trying to get a reaction. It was built on self-respect, self-care, and self-mastery. That's what Stoicism is about, not pretending to be unaffected, but learning how to thrive, regardless of who comes and goes. So if you're in this phase right now, where your energy is rising, your skin is clearer, your thoughts are sharper, your standards are higher, embrace it. You don't owe anyone a "look what you lost" speech. Your existence is enough. Your glow is the evidence. You are the closure. Say this with me in the comments and let it sink into your identity. I glow for me. Say it loud. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that your transformation was never about revenge, it was about rebirth. Stay with me, because next we're going to talk about the one thing they always expect you to fall for. But when you stop responding to it, that's when they really start to panic. Number 6. When you stop responding to their tests. If they can still trigger you, they still control you. This is the point in the story where they start getting desperate. But they won't show it directly. Not yet. Instead, they'll test you. Subtle things. A random like. A vague story. A delayed reply followed by a flirty emoji. A post that's just cryptic enough to make you wonder if it's about you. They'll throw emotional bait into the water because they want to know if the hook still works. And most of the time, it does. For most people, it does. But not for you. Not anymore. See, they've gotten used to the version of you that would take the bait. That version who overanalyzed, screenshot messages, asked friends, "Do you think this means something?" The version of you who tried to decode silence, fix mixed signals, and chase the emotional breadcrumb trail they were always one step ahead of. But that version, has left the building. What remains now is still, focused, quietly dangerous in the most stoic way. And here's what they don't expect: your non-response, not out of bitterness, not out of pettiness, but out of complete emotional freedom. Because once you stop responding to their tests, the game is over. You've unplugged from the system, and now they don't know what to do. Let me paint the picture for you. Imagine a magician performing the same trick over and over again. The audience gasps every time, amazed, impressed, hooked. But one day, a single person in the crowd just watches, doesn't flinch, doesn't clap, doesn't react. That magician, suddenly nervous, because the trick didn't land. That's you now. You're the one who doesn't flinch. They try to provoke you, to spark jealousy, to draw attention, not to reconnect, but to check if they still have control over your emotions. But when your response is stillness, when you don't respond at all, that's when fear creeps in, because emotional control was the last string they thought they still held. And when that string breaks, they realize they've lost more than your presence. They've lost your emotional availability, the true power they were feeding off all along. You see, my friends, most people don't want to love you. They want to own your emotional reactions. They don't want your heart. They want your attachment. And the moment you stop handing that over for free, they lose their footing. Because now you're unpredictable. And nothing breeds fear in manipulators more than unpredictability. Let's break a lie right here. You've been told silence is weak, that it's passive, that you're ignoring someone, and it's immature. But here's the truth. Silence, when rooted in calm composure and not insecurity, is a power move. It says, I saw what you did, I know what you're doing, and I'm just not playing anymore. Like Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When you choose to not react at all, not because you're numb, but because you're centered, you're showing a level of control most people never master. You're not faking indifference. You've simply moved beyond the stage where little emotional games can reach you. From their side, they'll try more. They'll push buttons harder. Maybe reach out with confusing messages. Maybe test your jealousy with someone new. But you don't move. You don't chase. You don't even flinch, because they're no longer your focus. You're no longer a participant in their chaos. You've exited the arena, and they're shadowboxing alone. This is the moment they realize you've changed, not temporarily, not as a strategy, but deeply, fundamentally. You no longer interpret their actions as signs of hope. You see them for what they are, attempts to see if they can still pull you in. But you've grown past needing emotional confirmation from someone who gave you nothing but confusion. You've replaced their noise with your peace, and once that happens, there's no going back. So if you're in this space, if you've seen their tests, recognized the bait, and chosen silence, understand this: you've already won. Because you're not just ignoring them, you've emotionally evolved out of their reach. Say this in the comments to anchor it deep in your identity. My silence is power. Say it with confidence. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that not everything deserves a reaction, and some things are best answered with your absence. Stay with me, because what comes next? That's when they stop seeing you as a habit and start realizing your presence was a privilege all along. Number 7, when your presence becomes a privilege, not a habit. When they start asking where you went, that's when they realize you were never obligated to stay. There comes a turning point, my friends, a silent but seismic shift, when your presence stops being a given and starts becoming a gift. When your attention is no longer routine and your availability is no longer assumed. It doesn't happen with a fight. It doesn't come after a dramatic exit. It happens in the stillness, when you start treating your time, your energy, and your emotional investment like currency. And suddenly, they notice the account has been closed. See, they got used to you. That's the truth. They grew comfortable with your consistency. You always replied. You always showed up. You were always there, present, loyal, predictable. Your attention came like sunrise, reliable and warm, even if it was never thanked. And in that predictability, they stopped valuing it. Because what is constant becomes invisible until it disappears. Imagine walking into a room every day and flipping a switch. The light comes on. You don't thank the light. You don't think about the wiring behind it. You just assume it'll be there tomorrow. But one day, you flip the switch and nothing happens. The light's gone. And suddenly, the absence screams louder than the presence ever did. That's what it feels like when you pull back. And no, you didn't do it out of spite. You didn't vanish to prove a point. You didn't try to make them chase you. You simply woke up. You realized that your constant presence had become their comfort zone, and your soul was paying the price. You realized you were being consistent with someone who was inconsistent with you. And that math? It never adds up. Now they're confused. Why aren't they texting like they used to? Why didn't they reply instantly? Why do I feel their distance, even when they haven't said a word? That's the power of the shift. You didn't storm out. You just stopped being so easy to reach. You stopped giving front-row access to someone who only showed up when it was convenient. Let's break a lie wide open. You've been taught that love means always being available. That loyalty means showing up no matter how you're treated. But that's not love. That's self-abandonment dressed up in nice language. The truth is, when you give your presence freely to someone who doesn't earn it, you teach them that you'll always be there, no matter how they behave. And that, folks, is how habits are born. But you're not a habit. You're not background noise. You're not another notification they can ignore until they're bored. You're a whole experience. And the moment you stop being automatic and start becoming intentional, they feel it deeply. Marcus Aurelius said, "Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary?" That wisdom doesn't just apply to tasks or thoughts. It applies to people, to conversations, to every single time you pour your energy into someone who hasn't once stopped to think what that energy costs you. And when you finally ask that question, is this necessary? You realize most of your availability wasn't based on love. It was based on habit. A habit you now have the power to break. And when you do, the world shifts. They don't see your message pop up first anymore. You don't reply in seconds. You don't initiate every conversation. And when they do hear from you, it's with presence, purpose, calm strength. You're no longer showing up just to prove you still care. You're showing up because you chose to. That's the difference. That's the power. From their side, it feels like the air's changed. Like something they didn't fully value has suddenly become rare, scarce. And now, it's precious. Because what was once a daily luxury is now an earned privilege. They start to remember the little things, the way your words made them feel, the way your presence brought peace. And for the first time, they miss it for real. So if you've been pulling back, not to punish, but to realign your energy with your standards, good. Keep going. You're not playing hard to get. You're just harder to forget now. Because your attention is no longer routine, it's refined. Say this in the comments right now to declare it to yourself and inspire someone else who's still stuck in old patterns. My presence is a privilege. Say it with intention. Say it for the version of you that used to give too much. And stay with me, Because the final shift, the one that hits the hardest, is when you no longer pretend to be indifferent. You are. And that's when they know they truly lost you. Number 8. When you're genuinely indifferent, not pretending. They thought you'd always care until you stopped pretending you did. There's pretending not to care, and then there's actually not caring. And my friends, the gap between those two, it's where most people get trapped. They post quotes, delay replies, act busy, try to look unaffected. But deep down, they're checking their phone, wondering, hoping, still emotionally tethered to someone who walked away like it was nothing. That's not indifference, that's performance. And performances always crack. But then one day, it shifts. Quietly. You wake up, and you just don't care anymore. Not in a bitter way, not in a dramatic "I'm done" kind of way, just in a freeing way. Their name doesn't sting, their silence doesn't echo. Their tests don't even register. You're not trying to move on, you already have. And that, right there, is what they never thought would happen. Because for a long time, you were emotionally invested, even after things ended. You were still looking for signs, still decoding their behavior, still holding on to the hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd come back. But now, you've filled your life with purpose, your focus has shifted, your energy is aligned with your future, not their past. And the best part, you didn't announce this. You didn't post about leveling up. You just did it. Silently, consistently, unapologetically. Imagine a flame once burning in your heart for them. At first it was wild, all-consuming. It lit everything. But when they stopped feeding it, it didn't die instantly. It dimmed, flickered, glowed in the corner for a while. But eventually, without fanfare, it went out. Not with smoke, not with anger, just gone, cold, done. And what do they feel when they sense this? Panic, confusion, regret. Because now, no matter what they do, no matter what they post, say, or hint at, it doesn't get a reaction. And that's how they know you're truly gone. Not physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You've exited their world not by blocking them, but by simply no longer revolving around them. Here's what Stoicism teaches us. Apatheia, the ability to remain undisturbed, not numb, not fake, but rooted in such deep self-mastery that nothing outside of you can shake your peace. You've reached that place now. You're not watching from the shadows. You're not wondering what they're thinking. You're not even hoping for closure. You've become the closure. You've turned the last page and set the book down, not because it ended badly, but because you've outgrown the story. And here's the plot twist they never saw coming. The more they try to trigger you now, the more indifferent you become. Because they're still playing a game. And you're not even on the field anymore. You don't need to win. You already did. When you chose peace over chaos, when you chose growth over games, when you chose yourself over trying to prove anything to someone who couldn't see your worth the first time around. Let me say this clearly. You don't have to pretend to be indifferent when you've finally healed enough to actually be indifferent. That's the goal. That's the real glow-up. No performance, no act, just peace, just presence. Just a new life that no longer includes someone who never knew how to hold a place in yours. Now, from their perspective, it's terrifying, because they realize too late your love had depth, but it also had a limit. And once crossed, there's no going back. They thought they had time, thought they could reach out eventually. But eventually came, and you weren't waiting anymore. So if you're here now, genuinely indifferent, living your life, no longer checking your phone, hoping for their name to pop up, congratulations, You've done what most can't. You didn't just survive them, you transcended them. And that version of you? Unshakable, calm, untouchable. Write this in the comments and make it a part of who you are. I'm no longer pretending. I'm at peace. Say it, affirm it, anchor it, show them, show yourself, show the world that your silence isn't bait, it's liberation. And if this message hit you deep, if it made you feel seen, understood, and empowered, press the like button right now. It helps spread this message to others still stuck in that cycle. And don't forget to subscribe, because the next video, we're diving even deeper into what happens when they try to come back and you're no longer the same person waiting. Stay focused, stay grounded, stay unbothered.